Hi there, guys. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd, and welcome to another episode of Relaxing Reviews. Today, we're looking at, surprise, another mechanical keyboard, but this one is very different from any keyboard I've looked at here on the channel before, and that's partially because of its unique layout. This is a 96 key keyboard. I guess you could call it like a 96% keyboard or something like that. But it takes almost all the functionality and all the keys of a full-size keyboard and compresses them down into as compact a footprint as you can possibly imagine for that many keys. And its greatest strength, perhaps, is that it has a full-size numpad on it, which, for those of you who haven't been able to give up, can't let go of the numpad, this could make it very appealing, especially if you value space efficiency, want to save some space on the top of your desk. This keyboard also has a very unique aesthetic. It is themed after Batman's arch-nemesis, the Joker. And when I first read this, I thought it sounded a little bit cheesy, a little corny. But having taken a look at the board, I think that the manufacturer has actually done a pretty spiffy job of making it look aesthetically pleasing and interesting based on that theming. The manufacturer is a company called iQunix, or perhaps iQunix. Honestly, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Please excuse me if I change my pronunciation throughout the course of the review. But what iQunix has here is something very interesting, and despite the board's namesake, this board is no joke. It's no laughing matter. This is a premium keyboard for keyboard enthusiasts. It comes with a fully aluminum case. It comes with dye sublimation PBT keycaps. It's available with full RGB backlighting, fully configurable. Also available with a Bluetooth, as a Bluetooth model that has both wired and wireless functionality. And all the models of this board come with a genuine cherry switches. So this is certainly a premium product, and it has a premium price to match. The base model of this board, which has no backlighting and no Bluetooth, comes in at $190 US. And the fully loaded model that we are looking at here today comes in at $240 US. That is with the Bluetooth and with the RGB backlighting. That is no small chunk of change, and it puts it in competition with some pretty serious keyboards. So the question that I'm going to be answering here for you today, of course, is it worth your consideration? Is it worth your hard-earned dollars? iQunix has very kindly sent over a fully loaded model for us to take a closer look at here today. So without further ado, let's get on into unboxing the iQunix F96-JOKER keyboard. And here we have the F96-JOKER in box. And what a box it is. This box makes quite a statement. Really, this whole keyboard, I think, makes quite a statement. But it's got this deep purple color going on here with the keyboard pictured on the front, Joker in this kind of painted looking writing, and then iQunix branding below. Very simple, very striking, looks really nice actually. Nothing on this side, nothing on that side. And down here, along the front, says iQunix Mechanical Keyboard. And this is a slip cover. So you can see there's another box inside. Similarly, iQunix Mechanical Keyboard. Nothing on that end. And not much on the back either. Over here, iQunix F96-JOKER. We have some stuff in Chinese that looks to be contact information. And over here we just have some images of the board, which I think are supposed to look like a hand of playing cards, because if you notice, each one has a different escape key. Maybe you can just see that if I hold this up. In one of the different suits, you see. And I'm guessing that inside we will find interchangeable caps like that. This is very heavy. This is really, really heavy. Like, feels like a brick. This whole thing feels solid. It's almost so heavy that it's kind of difficult to navigate here slowly and gently. So let's take out the inner box here. Like I said, it's hard not to clunk this thing around. Nothing inside, it's just cardboard slipcover. And here we have a really nice looking box. It's all in this sort of satin black finish, and it says iQunix in the middle in engraved silver lettering, which catches the light there. It's very elegant looking. Same on all sides, nothing on the back whatsoever, just this black finish. Feels very premium, I will say. And then, how do we open this? Oh. Magnetic closures. This is... it kind of snaps back down. Very nice. And here we have the F96-JOKER inside. So it's covered by a plastic bag. We've got some accessories in a little box over here. And we've got this nice foam padding on the top here to protect the board. Sort of a dense foam. Nice. Okay. Well, let's one thing at a time. Let's take out this accessories box if I can get it out. So it's just a black cardboard box, and I expect it contains probably a USB cable, maybe a keycap puller. I do have an additional little package over here, which we'll take a look at in just a second. But first, let's just finish this. The board is in a bag. It's also covered by a clear plastic dust cover kind of thing, which we've seen on some other keyboards, notably the Drivo boards. And this thing is heavy. Oh my goodness. This is really weighty. It feels super solid. Look at that gorgeous aluminum case. We'll get to that in a second, but that makes a nice first impression. Here we have a user manual, iQunix F96. This is all in Chinese. It's printed on a fairly nice kind of heavier stock. In fact, it looks like the whole thing is in Chinese. But the iQunix representative did send along a PDF copy of the English manual as well. So it is available in English, at least digitally. But in the box, it comes as a Chinese manual. We've also got some iQunix stickers right there. What looks to maybe be some kind of QR code. I'm guessing a warranty card, but again, it's all Chinese, so it's hard to say. And a little quality check insert with a little stamp on it. Good. Okay, so that's that. Let's put that aside for the moment. This nice box here. And let's quickly take a look at this supplementary package that came with it. So this whole box came actually inside another box, so it was very protected in shipping. But alongside it came this little pack, and this could be the extra keycaps. We'll take a look inside that little accessories box in a moment too. Indeed, it is extra keycaps. We have here an alternative space bar that says on it, "Why so serious?" in dripping font, which to me, if I'm being totally honest, this sort of drippy font looks super tacky. And I'm glad that we have the option of this spacebar or the one that comes on it pre-installed, which is just a blank spacebar. However, the enter keys, both the one on the main board and on the numpad, they have this same drippy font on them, and I don't think we get any alternatives for those. I could be wrong. Let's take a look. But these look like so these are those extra escape keys, or they could be whatever, but I guess they're these tall profile ones intended for the top row. And they have these different suits on them, different symbols. I'm not quite sure how these are finished. They feel like a PBT material. They are fairly thick, you can see. Almost no flex there, but they're white on the inside, green on the outside. This could be some kind of dye sublimation. I think these are dye sub caps. I'm fairly sure. I have to double check, but I believe they are. So I guess that's how this is done. It doesn't look like a coating that's going to wear off. In fact, you can actually see, if you look very carefully along the edge there, you can sort of see how the dye has penetrated into the white plastic some ways. So I think this is a pretty solid dye job. So we've got, clubs We've got diamonds, spades, hearts, and then we've got this one, which is just a spade and sort of a hand of cards. And the one that comes pre-installed has a heart and a hand of cards. So we'll look at that in a second, but nice to have some options. They're all the same dye sub PBT finish. They feel nice. They're nicely textured. They feel high quality. So that's great. As does the spacebar, for that matter. Nice thick material. It's just a shame they had to ruin it with that. But let's also take a look at contents of this accessories box. I'm hoping, really have my fingers crossed, that there are some alternative caps for the enter keys with a normal font that matches the rest of the board. Because I just can't deal with that drippy font. I just don't think it looks good. Okay, well, we have at least... no, I think we're out of luck as far as those keycaps go. But what we do have is a very nice looking braided cable, which looks like it's got a nice high quality braiding job. It's not too coarse. Nice tight weave on it. And then we've got a nice aluminum housings on either end with iQunix branding on them, which is great. Looks very nice. And thankfully, we have a USB Type-C connector, which is great to see. Great to Type-C, also with the iQunix branding on it. Feels like a very high quality cable, and of decent length too. Again, probably around the typical 5 or 6 feet, if I had to guess. Doesn't feel too stiff, honestly. A really nice high quality braided cable. And then we've got a couple of additional items here. We've got a really cheap looking keycap puller of the clip variety. You guys probably know I much prefer the wire keycap pullers. This one would work in a pinch, but eventually you're going to scratch up your caps by pushing this down on them repeatedly. It's not lost on me that this shape is the iQunix logo. We just saw it over here. You see? You see? Kind of clever, I guess. And then we've got something really nice. This is a Bluetooth USB dongle, Bluetooth adapter. It looks like it's got a little cap on it that you can take off. I suspect it's Bluetooth 3. I could be wrong. I'm not actually sure what Bluetooth standard this board uses. I'll look into that. But, you know, these are not expensive. They're like maybe $10 or $5 if you get a cheap one off AliExpress or something. But it's nice that they include it because many Bluetooth keyboards do not. In fact, the only Bluetooth board, the only other Bluetooth board that I can think of that has included an adapter was the original An Pro. I don't even think the An Pro 2 did. So, nice little touch to complete this sort of premium package. Notably absent, however, replacement enter keys. Also no brush or anything like that, which is always nice to see. Nothing else in there. Can't really see, but you can take my word for it. Overall, though, decent little bundle of pack-ins. Nice looking cable. Nice that they included that USB adapter, and then a few extra keycaps as well. Alright, now it's time to get to the main event. Let's look at the board. So here's the board. It's wrapped in a plastic bag. And it has this form-fitting kind of plastic cover on it, which is, as you can see, pretty straightforward. It's just a dust cover, I suppose. We've seen this, like I mentioned, on keyboards from Drivo before. And you could put it on your keyboard, I guess, when you're done using it for the day, but I think most people probably just recycle these, if I had to guess. Makes nice sounds, though. Set that aside. And here is our keyboard. Now, the design of the F96-JOKER is audacious in a few ways. First of all, we've got this incredible 96 key layout, which basically retains all the functionality of a full-size board, including the numpad over here, and most of the nav cluster moved up along the top here. There's just a couple of keys that are missing compared to a typical 104 key, or a few, I guess. But it packs it all into this very space-efficient design, where it's just this continuous wall of keys here. There are no gaps in it. And then it ups the ante by giving you this incredible color scheme, this deep purple on the modifier keys, this stark white on the alphas, and then these bright green accent keys. And then it goes even further by adding this, like I said, drippy looking font on the enter keys, which I'm not a fan of, but I guess it does work somewhat with the aesthetic. But these arrow keys with the card suits on them, and then of course the escape key with the kind of hand of cards look going on. And we saw those alternative escape keys earlier. So this is all pretty bold, and this 96 key design is fairly uncommon. I know of a few other boards that do it. There's the Kira from Kono. There's certainly a handful of other boards that you can get through, like or that have been available through group buys and things like that over the years, but is not a common design. I wish it was more common, because it is an efficient and functional layout. Now let's talk about this case for a moment, because wow, this case is made of this gorgeous purple aluminum. It's got this smooth, almost kind of satiny finish, just very lightly textured. That looks really nice. And then it's got this kind of almost industrial look on the corners here, where it's got the exposed screw holes there. You can actually see the screws down there. And then these corners that are kind of, I don't know, you can really see the gap in the joint. And that's an aesthetic choice, I think, because actually if you look, each of the pieces of the aluminum case here has been kind of rounded off at the edges. in order to accentuate the joint at the corner, which I don't know if I'm crazy about it personally, but your mileage may vary on that aesthetic choice. But the overall effect of the case is really striking because it matches those keycaps so nicely, and it is made of very, very thick aluminum. Look at the thickness on that. My fingers for scale there. That is a really hefty chunk of aluminum, and that is very apparent when you're picking this thing up because it is solid feeling. So that aesthetic goes all the way around, marred only by the USB 3 port on the back, which is sort of inset there. And you can see that the case itself is actually totally flat. The keycaps are, of course, OEM profile. Oh, I just flipped the switch on the back without even knowing it was there. I just bumped it. So let's turn this over and see what's on the back. So once again, just solid piece of aluminum. It's a little bit dusty, actually, almost. But I'm sure you could wipe that down with a damp cloth. We have here the iQunix branding. This appears to be a decal. I can feel it's raised up on the surface there. We have the F96 branding. And iQunix has a whole line of F96 keyboards in different aesthetics. They have the this one, the Joker. They have the KAT, which is a white aesthetic. It looks really nice. They have I think the Midnight, they call it, or something, which is a black aesthetic. They have a few different ones that look all very similar. Probably use the same chassis. We've got a plastic plate down here that says Bluetooth. I assume it's plastic to allow the Bluetooth signal to propagate, because if you enclosed it all in aluminum, I don't know that the Bluetooth signal would connect properly. That's my guess anyway. I think that's what that plastic panel's about. We've also got a hardware toggle here to switch between Bluetooth and wired modes. Bluetooth, wired, just a small little switch. So one I accidentally flipped a moment ago. We've got rubberized feet, little one here, little one there. Then we've got these sort of round, conical rubberized feet up at the top here. They do not seem to be removable, although I reckon you probably could if you really wanted. But they're not easily removable anyway. Over there as well. And it says on it here, let's read, Bluetooth Mechanical Keyboard, rated capacity 3.7 volts, 3000 milliamp hour. So that's decent. That's sizable, if not enormous. I recently reviewed another keyboard, the Low-Free Dot, that had a 4000 milliamp hour battery in it. The 3000's acceptable. Designed by iQunix, made in China, it says. And that's basically it on the back. This whole center section, you've no doubt noticed, is sort of popped out here. But it's continuous. This piece of aluminum is continuous, and this is all aluminum. There's no plastic on the back except this Bluetooth panel. And this Bluetooth, actually, where it says Bluetooth, that's engraved on that plastic, it feels like. It's got some relief to it. So that's very, very nice. Really, really nice, actually. Feels super premium, which one would hope, given the price point. But it's very solid. Let's turn it back around here. And let's have a quick looky-loo at the caps and the switches. So, I believe I requested this board with MX Browns, but I believe I saw on the shipping email that it was coming with MX Reds. no big deal. It's just a, a review sample, so I don't particularly mind one way or the other. But yeah, definitely these are reds. These are linear switches. As far as I know, it's only available with cherry switches, genuine cherry switches, which also helps justify the price because cherry switches tend to be quite a bit more expensive than some of the, knockoff, quote-unquote, clone alternatives. Although many of those alternatives, in my opinion, have surpassed Cherry's designs. But that's a discussion for a different day. Nonetheless, Cherry switches are going to be of good quality. They're going to be reliable. So it's nice to see it with high quality switches. Let's use this here keycap puller that I was just throwing shade at. Let's use it to pull off one of these keycaps. Let's just pull off this here control key if we can. Can't even. Oh, come on. Let's do it this way then. There. Hopefully I haven't damaged it. But just like those alternative keycaps we saw earlier, these are die-subbed. They're made of a nice thick PBT. They are lightly textured in a way that feels very appealing and looks really nice. I like the choice of font for the legends on all the keys, really. I think it looks just very classy, somewhat professional, with the exception, of course, of the enter key. I will say these keys seem well stabilized. They're very smooth, nice smooth action on the enter, the backspace, very little rattle on the space bar. Like impressively stabilized, actually. Very little rattle. And even over here on the numpad, very smooth, linear action, very little rattle. So they're using high quality stabilizers, and they may in fact be lubed. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, but first let's take a quick peek at our cherry switch over here. It is indeed an MX Red, RGB MX Red with the clear top housing. No real surprises there. Nice, smooth, linear action. But let's pull off one of these stabilized caps over here so we can see what's up with those nice stabilizers. Just put that control key back on there. Let's pull off the tiny shift. So, actually, that's worth pointing out. This is almost a perfectly standard layout in terms of the shapes of all the keys. Obviously, we've gotten rid of some space over here and things, but there are some deviations from a standard ANSI layout. Primarily, our right Alt function and control keys are all 1U as opposed to 1.5U, which we have our typical sized keys over here on the left side. And our right shift is also truncated so as to fit our dedicated arrow keys in here. Also worth noting, some of our nav cluster keys are, they've been moved from a cluster here up to the top row here. And by moving them to the top row, it actually changes the profile of the caps. So I recently ordered some other keycaps. Not that these are bad caps, but I ordered, or I should say I pre-ordered the SA Vile Bloom caps, which are Pokemon inspired set, and they look amazing. And I'm thinking I might try them out on this board. I think they look pretty nice on this board. But in order to get proper coverage on this board, I had to order the standard kit, as well as the non-pad kit, as well as the non-standard kit, so as to accommodate this shift key and the weird profile of some of these guys up here, and I guess these bottom row keys as well. So that came out to cost a pretty penny, and it does mean that if you are looking to buy just a standard 108 key set on, on Banggood or AliExpress or something for cheap, you're going to have troubles covering this board because of those non-standard keys. Just worth pointing out. Okay, so the last thing we were going to do here was pop off this shift, like so. And, oh, it is not stabilized. I guess because it's shorter. Normally right shift is stabilized. Not so here. However, we get a nice view of the top plate, which is a silver aluminum, which looks pretty nice there. Very little plastic used in the construction of this board. I mean, aside from the keycaps, of course, but let's take off this enter. Oof. Come on. Oh, wow, okay. I just pulled out the stabilizers here. Well, it was nicely stabilized. I'm gonna have to figure out what the heck happened there. I've never quite seen stabilizers that look like that. I don't think I broke anything though. I think I can get this all back into position, but I'll show you what's going on there anyway. Interesting looking stabilizer. But it is lubricated, definitely lubed. You can see it there. I'm hoping I didn't break anything there. That would be a shame. Anyway, we can see that, yeah, they are lubricated, which would account for that smooth action and lack of rattle. Always nice to see factory lubed stabilizers. It's a sign of a higher quality board that's got a little bit more, attention to detail put into it. So props to iQunix for that. Okay, so the plan from here is to plug this thing in, test out all the functionality, and there is a lot. This is a very fully featured board. We've got full RGB backlighting, despite the fact that the keycaps are not shine through. These are opaque caps, but if you wanted to put some shine through caps on here, I bet you it would look pretty cash. So full RGB backlighting. We've also got Bluetooth functionality to test out. So we're going to take a look at both of those in the next segment, followed by a typing test. So let's get to it. Okay, so here we have the F96. I was going to say plugged in, but it's not plugged in. Actually, it's just turned on. It's in Bluetooth wireless mode right now. But it is fully charged up, and I did have it in wired mode earlier, but we're just going to do this in Bluetooth mode because why not? We're going to look at the backlighting, the configurability of the RGB lighting here. We'll take a look at the Bluetooth functionality, and we'll take a look at the software after that, before finally going for a typing test. So in terms of the backlighting, it's pretty straightforward what's on offer. It defaults, it seems, to this purple kind of backlight, which is presumably to match the purple aesthetic of the case and of the modifier keycaps. And you can see that the backlighting is not that bright. This is the maximum brightness, and in fact there's only 2 brightness levels, excluding off. And you can control it with function up and down. So we're on max brightness. You can see that there's an indicator light right in the middle of the board. that flashes to indicate various things, in this case, to indicate that we are, in fact, at max brightness, but it's also used for Bluetooth pairing and those sorts of things. So we can step down one. That's the only other brightness setting, and then off is the other option. Let's turn it back on. You can also turn the backlight off with the function Z or Z if you're Canadian. So that's a little disappointing that there are so few brightness settings and that it is so relatively dim. Definitely dimmer than other keyboards I've seen. Now, part of that might be due to the fact that these are not shine-through caps. These are, of course, opaque or semi-opaque caps, and so the legends are not shine-through. They are dye-sub PBT, and yet they do transmit some light. Specifically, the alphanumeric keys transmit some light. You can see that they kind of glow a bit, whereas the modifiers basically block the light entirely. And it looks okay, but I will say that these keycaps, when they transmit light, you can see kind of the support structure underneath. Like there's kind of, you can see where the stem is. You can see some kind of mold line, or not mold lines, but support lines in there. It's like a cross. And it gives it this kind of uneven appearance. Each keycap looks a little uneven in the way it's lit. So the backlighting implementation doesn't necessarily impress right off the bat with the stock keycaps. That's not to say the stock keycaps are bad, of course. They're very good. It's just they don't look that great backlit, in my opinion. Now, of course, you could swap them out for some kind of shine-through caps, and I bet you it would look quite a bit better. The switches underneath are, of course, the Cherry RGB variety. They have the translucent, clear top housings, and the LEDs on this board are surface mount. They're SMD LEDs, and so they will shine up through those upper housings. So I suspect it would look pretty good with a set of shine-through caps or, pudding caps. I always mention them because they're often cheap. They're some of my favorites. That said, you might have a hard time finding a set of pudding caps that would have these non-standard caps, like the short shift and the small modifier keys down here, and the upper row of some of these modifier keys. Anyway, but let's take a cruise through our options. So we can toggle color with the function backslash. So we've got kind of a white there. We've got a fixed multicolor option. We've got a red, very red. And we've got a handful of other color options as well. There we are back at our sort of pinky purple. So how many is that total? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 total. These are the ones that come preloaded on the board. I'm assuming that we can change the backlighting on a per key basis using the software, but I do not know because I've not tried the software yet. We're going to be investigating that together shortly. But in addition to changing the color, you can also change between some patterns, and that's achieved by going function shift. So we've got a reactive mode here. I'm just going to open Notepad here so that we can type away to our heart's content. So this is the conventional waves when you press a button. We've got this where each key lights up when you press it. shooting out in horizontal rows. We've got this multicolor, just RGB rainbow rain pattern, which is nice. That looks pretty good, actually. But again, it's a bit dim. It is a bit dim. So this is another rain pattern in a mono color, although presumably we can... Well, that's interesting. We can't change the color with function backslash when we're not in the static color mode. Okay, so we've got vertical rainbow waves. We've got a sine wave. Kind of twinkling stars look, I guess. There's a bounce back and forth, like a Pong style effect. We've got... What are we doing here? Oh, that's interesting. The color changes when you type, but not when you don't. Oh no. Maybe it's just fading through colors. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think the color is changing as I type. Okay. The classic rainbow ripple from the middle out. Now, I don't believe you can change the direction of these effects, so this is middle out only, not outside in. You can't change the speed, but this is as slow as it gets. Speed control is function left and right, so you can see I hit function left, it doesn't get any slower. We can speed it up though, if you want to go full Hypnotoad. But that's ridiculous. So let's slow it back down. That's a little too fast for my liking, honestly. I wish you could go slower for something a bit more chill, but oh well. And then we've got these illuminated sort of clusters, and perhaps we can remap to profiles using the software. We will find out, but I bet we can do custom per key backlighting that's perhaps accessed in this slot. Oh, we've got more waves. Again, way fast. That's as slow as it goes. It feels frantic, doesn't it? There's no chill there. Oh, this is an interesting, like a rotating wave effect. Okay, now we're just cycling through colors across the whole board. By the way, as usual, if you see any flickering, that is simply an artifact of the camera and the frequency of the LEDs. There's no flicker visible in person. Breathing effect, also kind of frantic, doesn't get any slower. And back to our static color. Now, I bet that if we switch to, say, the RGB static color, and then we go through these, yeah, so these effects are available in the other colors or the other settings. It's just that you have to select it from the static menu first before selecting the animation. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Although some of these are by default rainbow. That one wasn't, but that one wasn't initially either. And I guess this one already cycles colors, so that one was of course rainbow to start with. That one was not rainbow initially, that was a single color wave, which we've now forced to be RGB. Anyway, and that swirl. It's kind of a neat effect actually, isn't it? But let's go to something a little calmer. What was nice? Like, there. Let's do that for now. I like that one. It's a little more calm, less frantic. Okay, so that is the extent of the backlighting configurability without using software. Again, We'll get to the software to check that in a moment. However, I will give a quick demonstration of the Bluetooth here. So this is in Bluetooth mode. There's that hardware switch on the underside of the board. You have to switch between Bluetooth and wired mode using that switch. I found that if you have it plugged in wired mode and you switch to the Bluetooth mode while it's still plugged in, the Bluetooth didn't want to connect, or it didn't want to go into Bluetooth connection mode properly when I did that. So I had to unplug it entirely and then switch it to Bluetooth mode. And only then did the Bluetooth pairing function properly. But to pair in Bluetooth, right now we're paired to my PC. This is Bluetooth 4.0, and it can switch between 3 devices on the fly. So you hold down function and then 1, 2, or 3 to begin pairing in that slot. I'm currently paired to my PC using the included Bluetooth dongle in slot 1. Let's pair to my Android smartphone here in slot 2. So we'll turn on Bluetooth there, and let's go function 2, and we hold it down for 5 seconds, and that LED between G and H, there we go, starts blinking. It's now in pairing mode. Interestingly, all the other lights turn off. Let's check Bluetooth devices on my phone. There it is. iQunix. I'm calling it iQunix. I think it might be iQunix. I really don't know. And we are paired. Very good. Now our Bluetooth lighting has come back. Or our Bluetooth lighting, or RGB lighting, I should say. Let's just open up a document here on my phone, and I'm just going to type on it to make sure it's not lagging on me. So once again, there is a bit of latency. Interesting. You can maybe see that there. It's not bad, but there is just a slight amount of lag, which I don't notice on my PC with the included dongle, so hard to know what's going on there. Anyway, then we should simply be able to go function 1, and I think it's connected. There we go. Took a moment, but it is now automatically reconnected to the PC. If I type, it is in fact on the PC. So you can do that with 3 slots. So there are a few other shortcuts to be had here. Of course, the numpad here can be switched between numbers and functions like home, page up, page down, and arrow keys using the numlock key, just like a normal full-size keyboard. You can switch between Windows and Mac layouts by pressing function, function A to switch to Mac mode, function A for 5 seconds, function I for Windows mode. There's something they call HHKB layout, Happy Hacking Keyboard layout, which apparently swaps the caps lock and the control. I didn't realize that was a thing that HHKB boards do, but it's an option here anyway. You can also check the battery level using, let's see here, function X apparently. Let's see what that looks like. Function X. Okay, so this light is flashing to indicate how much battery. It says here, flashing 3 times means 100% battery. So solid, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so which makes sense. The battery should be mostly full because I did have this plugged in up until a moment ago. 2 flashes means 2/3 full, 1 flash means 1/3 full. Good. I think that basically covers. Oh, we do have some media shortcuts. I'm just looking at the manual here. There is an English manual available online, I suppose, although I don't know where to find it online. It was emailed to me by the product or company representative. And as a matter of fact, for your guys' sake, I will link it. I'll host it on Google Drive, and I'll link it down in the video description in case you've picked up this board and you're having a hard time finding an English manual. How about that? Because it's not included in the package as a paper product. Let's plug in the board here. The one thing I wanted to look at was the charging light, because I'm not actually sure where the charging light is located. Isn't that interesting? I don't seem to see any charging light on here. What if we turn off the backlight? No, I don't see any light to indicate that it's charging. It says here in the manual that the power indicator is at the bottom of the keyboard, but I don't see anything down here. Oh well, not the end of the world. Not sure what that's about, but let's bring that RGB on. Okay. And yeah, there's some media shortcuts up here on the F keys. So function F6 is previous song, F7 is next, and there's a variety all the way up to F12, which opens the calculator. And that's pretty much everything. So now that we've taken a pretty extensive tour of the backlighting on this board, the Bluetooth functionality, it's time to take a look at the software. Now, I was unable to find the software anywhere online. Couldn't find it on the iQunix website. Couldn't find it linked off their Amazon page or anything. Couldn't find it with a Google search. I had to ask the product representative to send it specifically. So once again, if you can't find it, which you probably won't be able to, I'll be hosting it on Google Drive just for you, and it'll be linked down in the video description. So let's go check out this software. So here we have the iQunix or iQunix driver software. And this was very hard to get my hands on. Like I said, I ultimately had to get it from the company representative. I couldn't find a download online myself. I will put the link that was provided to me by the company rep down in the video description so that you can find this software too. And there are several pieces of software listed there as well as firmware. You want the one that says F96 standard/night driver, not the firmware, the driver. And don't be alarmed by the fact that the software file is named no RGB. It's called F96V4 driver no RGB. I thought that was strange, and yet here we are with RGB control. And it looks like we have a variety of effects here that correspond probably to the ones that we saw available in hardware. And you can see that we have a visual representation of the board here. Normally I overlay a little video in the corner of the board itself. I'm not doing that today because I already took down my setup for recording the board there. It took a couple tries for the rep to get this software to me. Anyway, the point is I was too lazy to set it back up. So you're just going to have to take my word for it that the lighting on the board is in fact changing as I change these options, and it is. So I guess we have a mixed color option turned on. I see, there we go. Mixed color option turned off. So it's all solid color right now, which is this color right here. You can enter the individual R, G, or B values. Looks like you can also select it over here on a color picker, and it changes pretty much instantaneously. Bearing in mind, I do have this plugged in right now. So this is in USB wired mode. I don't think this would work in Bluetooth mode. So the color rendering is okay, but maybe not the highest fidelity. As I'm watching the changes on the board here, they don't correspond super closely to what I'm seeing on this color picker. They're not so far off. There's also these settings. These must be some of the presets that we saw already. Some of them look okay. Others not as good. The oranges, not so good. Yellows are fine. Anyway, it's all right, but it's not exceptional. And then mixed color, of course, goes back to the rainbow. We have the brightness control, which is, of course, in 3 pieces because there's only off and then 2 settings. Let's go back to wave here. Speed, even on the lowest setting, as we noticed, is pretty quick. The speed at which it animates here is actually a little slower than how it appears on the board. You might notice that some of these menu effects are a little cut off here, so the interface could definitely use some work. This is available in both English and Chinese. You choose at the time of installation what language you want it in. So let's turn off mixed color. Let's set it back to static. Now let's see if we can change keys individually. I wonder how I would do that. Customize. Oh, not spread. Customize, maybe. Okay, so yes, that's the one where the WASD and the arrow keys are lit up by default. But here, I can in fact click on a key to give it that color, and the corresponding keys are lighting up. Now I'm not sure how to remove it. Oh, what about off? Oh no, that turns off all the lights. On? Oh, now they're all on. Okay. So that's all on or all off. Turns that one back on. Interesting. I'm not quite sure how to unselect one once it's selected. Once I've made it a color. Again, I can turn them all off, but okay. So different groups are highlighted here when you select group. So you can color by group as opposed to by individual key. Alright, that's a little goofy just because, again, I'm not sure how to. Maybe if I hit delete, will I have it selected? Nope, that does nothing. I'm trying right clicking, left clicking. I don't know. Alright, let's go to customize. This is for controls as opposed to lighting. So over here we've got lighting, customize, and macro. We do have profiles. You can create new profiles. We now have profile 2. Let's delete profile 2, confirm. You can give it a name down here if you wanted to rename your profile. Don't know what link does. Not sure. It looks like you can upload your profile to the cloud for some reason. Copy it, reset it maybe. Okay, so let's say we want to rebind W to something else. We have keyboard options. So we can say, let's make it, I don't know, G. So now W is bound to G, but maybe we don't want that. I guess we'd have to hit apply. You can do mouse controls. You can have it repeat rapidly. You can choose the number of times and the interval in between. Multimedia keys are available. Various system keys, actually only 3: power, sleep, and wake. We can load macros. We haven't made any yet, so what is this? Select macro finish. Interesting. You can choose whether it cycles after the fact or does something else. And combo key. This is very Chinese. I do not know what this is. New, revoke, save, copy, cut, paste, find. Maybe that's revoke is undo. Yeah, so these are just Windows operations that are available that would normally be like Control C, Control V. Looks like you could bind them to a single key. So that's cool. Okay, we will just reset it to its original. Then let's look at macros. We can give it a name. So let's call it test. Okay, there's macro 1. We can select various mouse actions for it, or we can click record and it'll record our key inputs. And click stop. You can go in, you can edit the individual delays, it looks like. There's actually quite a lot of granularity. So this is key down, key up. So you can individually edit the upstroke and the downstroke for each key, the delay between, and you can reorder those things and delete them individually. So pretty powerful, although fairly standard macro editor. We can save, we can cancel, we can delete that macro. And that is that. All throughout the software, I'm noticing a lot of these pieces of text are cut off. It's like the text isn't scaling properly. Perhaps it's designed to scale to the Chinese characters, but not the English. Not sure. But the software does have pretty much everything you would expect. It does have full per key RGB backlighting, despite the fact that I can't figure out how to undo the lighting on individual keys. It does appear to have full programmability on a per key basis, and it does have a macro creator and recorder, which can be used with the customize key programmability. So it looks functional, but it's a little rough around the edges, specifically due to the fact that a lot of these menu options just don't quite fit where they're supposed to. What's this button over here? Oh, we can change language on the fly. There's an about button. Vision 0.0101. Perhaps that's what it's called, iQunix Vision. I don't know. The software is labeled in the start menu, and on the icon is just iQunix. Okay, so that is that. Quick little tour through a fairly light, relatively functional piece of software, although kind of janky too, and then it's kind of janky. And I would expect no less, really. Most of these Chinese keyboard companies tend to have pretty janky software. Just kind of comes with the territory. Alright, so don't forget, if you'd like to download this software for yourself, it's down in the video description. Next step is to check out the typing experience. I'll be typing on the Cherry MX Reds on this board, which are of course linear switches. They're very smooth in feel and quite quiet. I'll do some typing where I bottom out. I'll do some typing where I don't. I'll type quickly. I'll type slowly. I'll move through some different color settings as well, just for fun while we're at it. Let's get to the typing test. Alright, we've had the opportunity to check out the F96-JOKER in fairly exhaustive detail, from the full unboxing to the backlighting and the Bluetooth to the software and of course the typing test. So now it's time to run down the pros and the cons of this board before I give you my final verdict. Starting with the pros, there's a lot to like about this keyboard. The first one that stands out is that premium packaging. I don't normally call out the packaging on a product unless it's exceptional, and I would say the packaging and presentation of this product is fairly exceptional. It has a really lovely box that I'm probably going to keep around just for storage of this keyboard, because it looks really nice and it gives you the feeling that you're unboxing something premium as you open it up. That premium presentation carries through to the impeccable build quality of the gorgeous aluminum case on this keyboard. It is very thick, is very solid, is nicely finished, and it has that beautiful vivid purple color. It's perhaps the most vividly colored aluminum case I've seen on a keyboard to date, and it looks fantastic. Another fantastic aspect of this keyboard is those thick PBT keycaps. They are marked with the dye sublimation method, which means that they will never ever wear. The legends will never wear off. And there's like no flex or anything like that to them. They feel nice to type on. They look great. The colors on the purple modifiers and the green accent keys are rich and vivid. So very nice keycaps on this board. Also worth calling out the layout, because this is one of the biggest selling points of this board. The 96 keys on this board provide almost the full complement that you would find on a full-size keyboard. They maintain the full-size numpad, which for many people is pretty crucial, but they do so while keeping the board relatively compact and saving space on the top of your desk. This is about as compact as you could imagine a 96 key keyboard being. And so it's great for people who really want that numpad, yet still value space efficiency. There are other keyboards on the market with this layout, but not that many. They're fairly uncommon, and so that makes this keyboard somewhat unique and more desirable for that reason. Also worth calling out some other aspects of the impeccable build quality on this board. I was very happy to see factory lubed stabilizers, which, although they were a slightly strange design that I was unfamiliar with, they work really well. They are very, very smooth, and as you heard in that typing test, there's no rattle whatsoever on any of the modifier keys, including the space bar. The action on the space bar is very pleasing, and I always look to that as an indicator of the overall quality and typing experience on a board, and iQunix absolutely nails it with the high quality factory lubed stabilizers. Further contributing to the high quality typing experience are the genuine cherry switches. Now, I know that in past, sometimes I say, well, you know, cherry switches are overpriced and there are better options for your money. And I'm still kind of that mind, but Cherry MX Reds are very good switches, and although you pay for the name, you are getting guaranteed quality. Cherry switches are, of course, German design switches with a very long history. You know that they're going to be very consistent and of excellent quality and durability. So it's nice to see those switches included on this board. Although it would be nice to have an option of, for instance, maybe Gatoron switches at a somewhat lower price point, because that would help make this board appeal to a wider audience, a wider range of buyers. just something to consider, I suppose, for iQunix in the future. Carrying on with our extensive list of pros, really great to see both the wired and the wireless functionality on this board. Of course, that is an optional model, so you can get this board without the Bluetooth, but this fully loaded version with the Bluetooth I found to work very well. It has a hardware switch on the back for switching between wired and wireless mode, and the Bluetooth was very stable, very responsive, and quite reliable. I never had a drop connection, and I was able to establish connections with multiple devices and switch between them very quickly. And finally, I'd like to call out the included Bluetooth adapter. It's a small thing, but very few Bluetooth keyboards actually include a USB adapter. The only other one I can think of was the original and Pro. So it's nice to see iQunix including the USB adapter with this package. Over on this side we have the cons, and it's a fairly short list, to be honest. The first thing that I'm going to call out here is there are some questionable aesthetic choices. Really, well, two. We'll say two questionable aesthetic choices. The first one is the font for the legends on the enter keys. I just don't like it. I think it looks just too corny, that kind of drippy font, and I wish they had included alternative enter keycaps with just the regular font that's present on all the other keys. The second aesthetic quibble that I have is the way the backlight shines through on the keycaps. They're not shine through caps per se, but the alphas are semi-transparent, and so you can kind of see the molding and some of the structural lines through the keycaps, and it just doesn't look that great in my opinion. I don't know if they could have avoided this by using a slightly different material or a dyeing process or something like that for those caps. Honestly, I'm not sure what they can do about that. The caps themselves, don't get me wrong, very nice. It's just the combination of the backlight shining through those caps. It doesn't look as nice as it could. Another thing I'm going to call out here is actually related, and that is that the RGB backlighting is somewhat lackluster. It's not bad, it is functional, it is fully configurable with 16.8 million colors or what have you. It'll at least configurable through software, but it's a bit dim even on its maximum brightness, and combined with those keycaps where you can kind of see the molding and structural lines through the caps, it results in the board looking a bit dingy when you have the backlight on, and that's not what you want out of your premium keyboard. I just don't think it looks quite as good as it could with the backlight enabled. Another aspect that I need to call out here is the software. To no one's surprise, it's kind of janky. Yes, it gets the job done. You can configure your backlighting, you can reprogram all the keys, you can record macros, but it doesn't look very good doing it. There's a couple of clunky and unintuitive things that I wasn't really able to figure out. Overall, it's just kind of a janky piece of software. And finally, I have to call out the price of this board. While I don't think it's an unfair price, given all the pros that I listed off earlier, it is still somewhat expensive, and it's going to be out of the budget for many people, and it does put it in a range with some pretty stiff competition coming from the likes of big name manufacturers like Corsair, as well as boards for real keyboard enthusiasts. At the $200+ price point, you're starting to get into some pretty exotic and premium builds. So the price is a bit of a sticking point, or will be for some people, no doubt. So after all of that extensive inspection and discussion, what is my final verdict on the iQunix F96-JOKER? Well, as you can probably tell, there's a lot to like about this keyboard. It has impeccable build quality, honestly, really impressive. Between the really thick aluminum case, the cherry switches, the PBT keycaps, it's just a joy to touch, to put your fingers on. It feels great and incredibly solid. I also think it looks pretty good. The aesthetics are unique and perhaps not to everyone's taste, but I think iQunix has done a great job with the Joker aesthetic, and it's quite different. I can't think of any other keyboard that really goes for that aesthetic and nails it the way this one does. My one quibble with the aesthetics, of course, is those enter keys. I just don't like the font. I just don't think they look that great. I might swap them out personally for some other green keycaps. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty great looking board. The typing experience was very solid with the looped stabilizers, those cherry MX switches, incredibly smooth. Your fingers just glide over the surface, very buttery smooth all around. The RGB backlighting is a bit of a sticking point. I don't think it gets as bright as it ought to. I don't think it looks that great with these particular keycaps, but it's not a deal breaker. Similarly, the software, while functional, is kind of janky, but no big surprise there. Perhaps the greatest strength, however, of this keyboard is its layout. This 96 key layout, I've come to really like it, and I wish there were more boards offering this layout. If you are really impressed or really sold on this 96 key layout and you want to check it out, yeah, there are a few others on the market, but not that many. So kudos to iQunix for adopting that layout for this board. I think it was a really good choice. Now, the final sticking point with the F96-JOKER is, of course, the price. And as I mentioned, the base model starts at $190. The fully loaded model that we looked at here today is $240. That is not especially cheap, and it does put it in direct competition with a lot of very well-made and competent and interesting keyboards. That being said, I do think that the F96-JOKER holds its own against those boards. Things like the Corsair K95 Platinum, which is one of the top of Corsair's line, or the Mass Drop Control, which you will be seeing a review of here on the channel in the future. These boards come in around the same price, and I do think that the F96-JOKER compares favorably with them and their ilk. And so the question for you as a potential buyer really comes down to, what is the feature set that you value the most? What kind of aesthetic options are you looking for? If you're looking for something with a unique but very clever and space-efficient layout and some very different but I think visually appealing aesthetics, then the F96-JOKER is an excellent choice. And me personally, I really enjoyed my time with this keyboard. That unique layout and the excellent build quality really made it a joy to use day to day. And perhaps the highest praise that I can give the F96-JOKER is that it has earned a permanent place in my rotation of favorite keyboards. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of yet another relaxing review. Special thanks, of course, to iQunix or iQunix, however it's pronounced, for supplying the review sample that we took a look at here today. If you'd like to purchase the F96-JOKER, you can do so direct through iQunix website. There is a link down in the video description. It is evidently available on Amazon as well sometimes, but it doesn't appear to be available right now, so your best bet appears to be to go directly through iQunix. Again, link down below the video, along with links to the software for this keyboard that I was showing you earlier. Special thanks, of course, to each and every one of you guys for watching today. I hope you found this video informative, and of course, I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time for another episode of relaxing reviews. Bye for now, guys.